Good afternoon or good morning, I guess for some folks. We've got folks joining from all over the country, so still morning for those on the left coast. So thank you for joining webinar number 3 in our monthly series. The response has been so incredible with attendance and the feedback that Wade and I have received throughout that we're going to continue this process on. Today, the topic is behind the build, how Get My Parking delivers innovation every 6 weeks. So we're going to take you a little bit behind the curtain today and then talk about two exciting features. Wade has got the exciting part of this. He's going to get to talk about like two of the exciting features.
Thanks for
Um,
that.
just a quick recap for everyone. So over the last two webinars, we covered new features and functionality that have come out at Get My Parking. So we covered the first session was multi-day hotel validations. It can be used outside of the hotel space, but really a great tool that opened up the hotel vertical for us and gotten a great response and some proposals and things that have gone out already there. And then last month, of course, we talked about Ava, our AI virtual assistant in ExpressLane, and great attendance and response to that. So today we want to talk a little bit about our sprint process and what that actually is. That's the process that enables us to get these features and functionality out to you every 6 weeks. So all the tools that we showed you in the past, as well as the ones that Wade is going to be talking about later today, all came about directly as a result of that process. So our agenda for the next 20 minutes or so, again, we want to make sure we wrap up. We keep these to a half hour. We want to be respectful of your time and thank you all for joining. One housekeeping item, if this is the first time you've joined one of our webinar sessions before, is we don't have audio turned on for everyone, but we certainly want you to ask questions if you have them. The chat is disabled on here, but down at the bottom of the screen, you will see a box called Q&A. And you are able at any point to ask any questions anonymously in that section, and we will get to as many of them as we can at the end, and any that we can't get to, or if you stump us with anything that we cannot answer, we will follow up when we send out the recording of the webinar. We will follow up with those answers to those questions. So the agenda today is to go through our agile development process, which is called our sprint process. And then Wade is going to go over two exciting things that came about as a result of that from our most recent sprint with nested zones and reserved and unreserved permits. So I don't want to steal his thunder. He'll go over that here in a few minutes. After that, we'll just kind of do a quick recap of takeaways, and then we'll tackle any Q&A. Let's talk a little bit about the agile sprint process. And what I want to do first is talk about why you should care about this. Like, why am I about to give you a peek behind the curtain so you understand what our sprint process is and why does it matter to you as a value-added reseller? So we talk a lot. I do, and I know Wade does, that GMP has got one of the largest, if not the largest, tech team in parking with approximately 100 people. I'm in sales, so I tend to round up a little bit. But all kidding aside, like we really do have close to 100 developers, QA, engineers, data scientists, and product folks. That matters, right? And I don't think we've always done a really good job, quite frankly, of explaining why that matters. Having that large of a team, which if you've been in parking for a while, you know that's not normal. That is not a normal resource, an amount of a resource to have. And these are employees. This is not an outsourced resource. But that enables us to put out new features and functionality every 6 weeks. And I mean every 6 weeks. I've been here 2 years and there hasn't been a period that's gone by. And sometimes it can be simple bug fixes, but sometimes it's major releases like the things we've gone through in these webinars the last few months. And that matters to you to know as a value-added reseller, quite frankly, that you've picked the right horse in terms of a solution to represent, right? You're representing a company that's best in class, that is putting out features and functionality that comes largely from your feedback and your customers' feedback, right? Get My Parking isn't sitting in an ivory tower trying to make determinations that we think are best for North American parking. We're talking to the people like you that are out there doing it every day, right? It keeps the offer competitive for you as a reseller, right? The technology, and part of that is constantly changing. New features every 6 weeks. You can offer the latest and most innovative parking solutions, and we turn your feedback and the feedback of your customers into faster revenue for you, right? The ability to get things out, features that you need. We also reduce risk and downtime, like by doing features and functionality every 6 weeks. We get things out more often. It's more bite size. It's not going to disrupt your operations in any way. And it gives you another important thing is it gives you as the VAR an opportunity, just an excuse for lack of a better term, to be reaching out to your customers on an ongoing basis, right? I work with a lot of you, as does Wade. We have a lot of proposals out there, right? It's exciting in the beginning. You find, because of your relationship, a great opportunity. You bring us in. We do an incredible ExpressLane demo. We work with you. We put out a proposal, and then things get quiet, right? There's that inevitable quiet period. And you want to be reaching out to get updates from your customer on what's going on with the proposal, but you don't want to just be stalking them, for lack of a better term, every week asking for an update. These new features and functionality give you an excuse to talk to them and reinforce why they're going to make the right decision in going with GMP, which further builds trust in the relationships that you have, not just with us. It's important that you understand that you didn't just choose a vendor by going with Get My Parking. You chose a partner, a long-term growth-oriented partner that's here to help you drive revenue and for us to drive revenue together. And it will open up new sales opportunities as we keep launching all these new features and functionality. So hopefully that gives you an idea on like why you should care about the fact that we do put out new features and functionality every 6 weeks. So now I'm going to quickly take you through the steps. I want to give you just a brief understanding, high level, that you could share with customers and prospective customers. But I don't want to take you too deep into how the sausage is made, because that's not that interesting. If you really want to know, reach out to Wade and I. We're happy to schedule time separately for that. But yeah, step one in this whole process is planning. And that happens before the 6-week sprint cycle ever starts out. And that comes largely from feedback from you, your customers, our operators. We have a platform called GSC, Get My Parking Service Center. It's through Jira that your customers would have access to. But quite frankly, if you have an idea for something or you're hearing a need from your customers, just call Wade or I. Let us know. The ticket is fine as well, but let's talk through it. Let's figure out what the revenue opportunity, why it's so important. Why do you need it to unlock new locations? Let's talk through that. So we get all that feedback. We build a product roadmap, just like many organizations do out there. And then we have our own internal product wish list where we go through an entire process that leads to an analysis stage. Again, this step is happening 4 weeks before the sprint starts. So one of the things that's important to understand, we do a sprint every 6 weeks. When I first started at GMP about 2 years ago, I thought that meant there's a 6-week sprint, then there's this period of time where none of that's happening and we're working on the next sprint. Then there's another 6 weeks. These are continuous new 6-week cycles. So we are already, while we're in a current sprint, we're already working on the next sprint. It helps us to remain incredibly agile and quick in what we're doing, right? So the analysis is the product team looking at the roadmap and going based on bandwidth, revenue opportunities, other opportunities that could open up, what's going to fit in that next release. And then we get into the period where we're actually into the current 6-week sprint cycle of design and implementation. So product design happens right before the current sprint. And then the tech team is designing during the first 2 weeks of the sprint and then implementing these features all during the first 4 weeks of the 6-week sprint. Everything is designed and implemented. Again, when you have almost 100 people on a team, that is what enables you to be able to do this and be so nimble and quick. And then we have testing that happens over the last 2 weeks. Testing is important. That goes without saying. It also lets us figure out the finished product. We know now we can build the resource documents and other things that product needs to put out, user manuals that we're going to share with you. It also gives us the opportunity, if we just don't feel in those last 2 weeks like a feature is 100% ready for prime time, for lack of a better term, that we can push that off into the next sprint so that we're comfortable, or sometimes we even do mid sprint releases. So it gives us that flexibility, and all of this is happening very quick in real time. Then we deploy, right? That happens at the end of the sprint. We send out an email communication to all of our partners. If you are not receiving that notification with the information, just please don't put it in the chat here or anything. Just email Wade or I, whoever your resource is, if you're not receiving those, and we'll make sure that you do. So you're supposed to receive those at the end of every sprint. And then the idea is that you're able to take some of the key high points from that and go talk to your customers and prospective customers and let them know the latest and greatest. Another big thing about our deployments is there is no downtime. You read that correctly on the screen. There is no downtime during any of our deployments. We can release in batches if needed. We also stack the deck in our favor in the event anything should happen. We typically do these releases in the middle of the night when your locations and your customers' locations are not going to have a lot of traffic. And then there's maintenance. So for those of you that already have customers with us, you know that once you have a customer, you're assigned a key account manager. That key account manager is going to reach out to the customer, make sure they're aware of the features, functionality, how to use it, do any demos. Wade and I can also help any of the VARs as well with that. And any changes that are required are implemented during the next sprint. So that is like in under 10 minutes, gives you a quick view of what we're doing behind the scenes. And hopefully you see the value that brings you as a reseller to be able to take out to your customers. I am now going to turn it over to Wade, and he's going to get to talk about two of the really awesome features that came about as of this last sprint. So Wade, I'll kick it over to you.
Thank you, Chris. So nesting. First, I wanted to talk about what nesting means, because nesting can mean many things to different people. So I wanted to address the definition of nesting in the get my parking sense. So nests are designed for parkers who enter the general area, but desire or are forced to park elsewhere, with or without a parking fee adjustment. So the parker can, or perhaps they must, enter a specific nest, stay in that nest throughout the entire stay of their time in the garage. And once they leave the nest, they have a limited amount of time to exit. If the parker breaks any portion of those nest rules, the fee at the exit, if needed, is adjusted accordingly. And that is a typical nest. So enter in ExpressLane nested zones. So nesting. So nesting allows the operator to restrict access to the VIPs and the staff. It allows the operator to utilize the entire garage by discounting or forcing some parkers into the less desirable areas and locations and keeping them there throughout their entire stay. Next slide, please. Nesting also allows the operator to capitalize on premium spots or floors by creating custom pricing for those premium areas. So it's great for complicated or mixed-use layouts while increasing revenue. And it's simple for the parker. There's no new steps in the app. It's something they're familiar with. Nothing new for the parker. Next slide, please. So let's start off with a case study about nesting. So River Landing is a location in Miami. It's a 14-story parking structure with 12 nested areas. It's huge. The facility supports an extremely large corporate, residential, and transit customer base. There's over 2,500 spaces. So in total, there are 30 lanes in the garage, including the nest. So the challenge was to manage multiple parking groups, reduce the congestion and the overlapping, while maintaining a ticketless environment and providing space allocation management for the operation. So the solution, let's go ahead and next slide, please.
I think I jumped ahead there.
Yep, we're there. Sorry.
I'm catching your flow, Wade. I've got it here. I think I'm keeping up.
The location added GMP's AI-powered space zoning protocols and created Nest for all 4 user groups. So each user group is now controlled, and each user group has their own rate structure. This is a unique operation for the use of Nest, and that the Nest are monitored in lane only. So what that means is, once the parker drives in, if they're not out of the garage in a certain amount of time, then a premium rate kicks in. So If you heard that right, we have cameras on the entrance, but nothing on the exit. So we've made this completely for an upsell opportunity. There is signage everywhere. When the parker drives into the facility, they know that they're pulling into a premium location per their group, and they're going to get charged. If the general public finds themselves in that area, well, they can also be infected with that same charge because they're not supposed to be in there, and that's controlled by signage. And again, we don't control the exit. Once you leave the garage, if you're within the rules, then the normal fee applies. So the location's use of Nest was a glaring success. The location optimized and the use of all 14 floors and provided a frictionless Nest for all groups, each with his own dynamic pricing. Provided the operation with real-time visibility. I think that's important. So they have a real-time visibility into their levels. And I think that is huge for the operation. And this is all done without an equipment overhaul. So we're conducting a site tour this coming Monday. If you're coming to the FPTA in Miami, encourage you to reach out to Chris or myself and schedule a time to go there if you haven't done that already. We did try to do a pretty good job of getting the word out that we're going to do a tour and maybe grab some snacks afterwards, but I wanted to offer that here at all the VARs as well. If you're going to be in Miami, please send us a note and let's bring you into the river landing so you can go check it out for yourself. So next slide. So permits, fun, exciting stuff, right? Well, it is exciting when you have the ability to allow a customer to purchase an unreserved or a reserved permit from their app. I think that's pretty cool. I don't know about you, Chris, but I think that's real cool. So once the parker opens the app or the web portal, they have the ability to choose what type of permit they want to buy. With an unreserved permit, if no approval is necessary, you can upload that permit right away and start using it. Typically, the reserve permits require a space allocation and authorization, and then the permit can be uploaded. So next slide, the how. So as I said, parkers can request permits through the app, making the self-service process quick and straightforward, and the operators still retain full control of the approval process and the dispersion of the permits. Pretty cool. The why is easy. The control over the parking spaces is optimized for all types of locations, accommodating the high demand from VIPs, doctors, and lawyers and such. Chris, I don't know about you, but I think there's a country song in there from Waylon and Willie. Mama, don't let your babies grow up to be cowboys.
Yeah,
But
I think you're on to
I
something.
digress.
I think you're on to something there. Yeah.
It also provides improved real-time vision, control of the space allocation management program. So like I said, the why was easy. So the takeaways from this. So the takeaways from my point of view, in the next slide. The takeaways are 6-week sprints are the bomb. They truly set us apart in the industry. Not 1 or 2 years for development that you're all familiar with. We've all wanted that feature from parking company XYZ, and we just can't seem to get it. But 6 weeks, unheard of in the parks industry. So reserved and unreserved permits and the way you get them are pretty cool, especially when you can purchase them right through the app. Pretty cool. The value of nesting is tremendous. It's another revenue source that is easy to explain and offer our customers something, and they just work. And as Chris said, it gets you an opportunity to get back in there and say, hey, we have a new feature to show you. Check it out. So let's open it up to some questions if you have any. I think we've done an okay job of showing you the platform.
They're flowing in, Wade. I'm gonna start hitting you with. I'm gonna let you tackle some of these, but I'll get to those in a second. I just want to echo your sentiments on the nesting in particular. Like I know that in talking with a lot of the VARs, that's been a big ask of a lot of customers. So now we've got that. So like if your question is a little bit more involved for a chat on a 5 to 10 minute Q&A session on a webinar, we totally understand that. Just reach out to Wade and I and let's discuss your use case in great detail offline and discuss that. But yeah, the questions are coming in. Wade, how lucky are you feeling, man? You've been with us now a few months, so like you're a veteran now. So
I've been here 11 weeks. I feel like I'm a veteran.
Yeah, you are. It's like
I'm also in sales, so I can make it up, and most people don't even know I'm lying.
There you go. So we'll find out how good you are You are at that. So a couple questions have come in about the nested zones already, not
Okay.
surprisingly. So one question was, how difficult is it for me as a VAR or a customer to set up a nested zone? Do I need support from GMP, or what do I do if I've got a nested zone in one of my locations and I want to get it set up?
Yeah, at this time, and this is a larger conversation. It's something that we're working on. One of the things that Chris and I are working with leadership in HQ is we know that the VARs really want to do this on their own. They do not want to have anybody help them throughout the process. They want to learn how to sell it. They want to learn how to install it. They want to learn how to maintain it. And we hear you. We understand that and we hear you. However, we're not quite there yet, but we're working on it. We're releasing some training for some people for the VARs. You'll see some information about that coming soon. But at this time, Chris, we have to have our team find out all the rules and program them ourselves. So we actually currently now go on site and we will manage all of the implementation of the rule set, testing, and making sure that the nest is actually configured correctly and working correctly before we call it complete.
That was an excellent answer. I have nothing.
I
I have
didn't make that
nothing to
up.
add
That's
to
all
that.
real.
That you either sold it well, or you really knew what you were talking about. Here's a good follow-up type question on nesting. So does the nested zoning require any new hardware or integrations from what I already have in that location?
And the answer is no. You'll just have to add the cameras and the gates if you wish, right?
Yep.
The gates kind of require or enable the garage to make sure that people who aren't allowed to be pulled in or to pull into a nest, only the allowed people are allowed in. And if you want to control the exit time frame, then we need an exit gate too, so that we can control that time in the nest as well as the time from the nest to the exit to make sure that somebody doesn't pull into the nest, pulls right out of the nest, and parks at the front door in the spot right next to the handicap that is always taken.
Yep. All right. So you're clearly doing well at answering questions on nested. How are you feeling about permits?
Oh, hit me. What do you got?
All right. Can parkers request reserve permits directly through the app? And then I guess a follow-up secondary to that is, how is approval handled?
Well, the answer is quickly yes. You use the app to reserve your unreserved permit. And the process on the admin portal is the operator, if they require to assign the space, they will then authorize the permit once they have signed the space. So the operator uses the admin portal and allows the permit to be available for you to download and put it into your profile.
I don't even know why I'm here. You're doing you're doing so well. So a
Someone
couple
has to read
questions
the
have come in
questions.
about the what's that?
Someone has to read the questions to me.
Yeah, you know what? I'm doing a great job with that, I guess. So I'm gonna read and attempt a few of these. We got a couple on the sprint process. By all means, Wade, add any color you want. The first was like, how can VARs or their customers submit feature or feedback that influences future sprints? So we touched on this very briefly during the presentation, but the simplest answer is just call Wade or I, whoever your dedicated resource on the VAR side of things is, and make that request, and we'll talk through it together. Your customers that are already set up with us have access through Jira to submit a ticket, but even still, I would certainly want to have a conversation, and so would Wade, with you first, before even a ticket was submitted. So the simple answer is just call us. We always want to talk about like
Yeah,
things that you guys are seeing. You guys are our eyes and ears in the marketplace, in the markets that you're in. So we always want to hear from you and just let us know what your needs are. Go ahead, Wade.
Yeah, and to add to that, we really look at the priority, to prioritize the build of the request. And so things to consider are the revenue stream that could be acquired through this new feature, as well as does it give us more locations? And does it bring in any new business? Those are the things that we look at to decide whether or not the high, medium, or low value of the feature, then figure out exactly where they fit and what they really mean to us, and then we put them into categories. We talk about this on a weekly basis. The headquarters has an entire meeting set up for the key account managers to go through what they hear every week from their partners and their customers, and we prioritize them weekly. And then at the end of the month, we figure out which ones should be approved, which ones should be pushed back, and we create our sprint from those meetings.
Well done. All right, we have time for one more, and it's about the process again. And the question is simply, how do you decide which customer or partner requests get prioritized in a sprint? So the simple answer to that is I accept cash, Venmo, or any other form. All kidding aside, um, there's a lot of factors that go into deciding that, right? Um, it, the urgency of the need, is it a need we're seeing across the board, the bandwidth of the team and what items are already in the current sprint, all of those items factor in, right? Like, of course, we're a business just like you are, so we're looking at what is the revenue potential, whether potential gain or potential loss from not having a certain feature. So all of that gets factored in. Really, our product team with our input on the sales side work together to try to figure out how to put things in. And the nice thing is, because we have a constant 6-week cycle, even if you're not in this cycle or the next one, you're still only a couple months away from potentially having that solution in. But that gives you a little bit of color into kind of the background of how we work as a team at GMP to try to prioritize. Anything to add to
Yeah,
that, Wade?
and I bet on our last sprint, Chris, I bet we had 20 to 25 feature sets, and we just touched on 2 of them, right? So there's 23 other feature sets that got released in our last sprint. We just picked
Yep.
out the 2 coolest ones we thought you'd appreciate.
If you have any other questions that we didn't get to, please reach out to Wade and myself. We have a wonderful, happy, safe Thanksgiving with friends and family. And thanks again for taking the time with us today.
Thanks, everyone.